Andy Johnson here. We are looking at teacher-centered instruction. These are all variations on a theme, all types of teacher-centered instruction where the teacher is in control. We are going to look specifically today at direct instruction. 8 elements. Take a look at them there. This is kind of an advanced organizer to show you what is to come. If you notice that that's part 2 of direct instruction, overview, preview. So this is your overview, preview. Direct instruction has some or all of the following 8 components. Clearly defined measurable objectives. You can measure them. You see them. They can be quantified. For example, Roger Major is one of these guys who tried to make a science out of teaching, describe objectives and how it can be assessed. A behavioral objective, you should be able to say yes or no as to whether it has occurred or you have been successful. They are looking at a behavior. Students would be able to summarize each of the 8 elements of direct instruction on a graphic organizer. That is a behavioral objective for this lesson on direct instruction. It is a behavior that I can see, and I can say yes or no in terms of whether you have mastered that objective. One of the things I don't like about that is that learning, real learning, happens here cognitively, not behaviorally. In this form, according to Major, learning experience is clearly defined. When you define what must be, you eliminate what might be, however. He tried to make teaching a science, repeatable, measurable, valid, reliable. However, children are not standardized products. Teachers are not standardized products. You can't have a standardized teaching method or process. Teachers need to use what parts they feel most comfortable with. According to Major, and again, just know that Major was a guy who came up with these lesson plan objectives, that is not pragmatic to use them today. But since you're going to be tested on this on some stupid teaching test, you should know the name, Robert Major, 3 types of objectives. According to him and his goofy ideas, behavioral objectives should describe the behavior the student is supposed to be engaged in. Students will learn number facts up to 5. Describe the conditions under which the student will perform the behavior. Students will be doing math fact sheets. And define what constitutes evidence that the objective has been mastered. Students will score 9 out of 10. Again, cumbersome. Not pragmatic at all. If I were doing behavioral objectives on this lesson, students will learn how to design a skills lesson plan. They'll work independently. Students will be able to design a lesson plan to teach a literacy skill that contains and correctly uses the elements of direct instruction. Again, that is far too cumbersome to have on each and every single lesson plan. Old Benjamin Bloom, another in the long line of educational messiahs that said, if you just do things this way in this standardized process that I have invented, all educational problems would be solved and all children will learn, and hallelujah, life would be good. Beware of educational messiahs. He also looked at learning as a behavioral science. He posited that you should have a taxonomy of learning objectives in 3 areas: the cognitive, thinking, affective, emoting, and psychomotor, doing. And no one today creates lesson plan objectives in all 3 of these areas. I shouldn't say no one, but very few people think it's effective or pragmatic to do so. Today we focus mostly on cognitive objectives, Bloom's taxonomy. However, the real value of this is to use these to develop activities and assignments. I know after a lesson, instead of just burping up data on some assignment, let's get them to apply, to analyze, to create, to evaluate. The same way with affective and psychomotor. Let's get them to do something. These give me ideas, these action words, for activities and skills to manipulate the content. That is the value of Bloom's taxonomy. The second part of direct instruction is an orientation, overview, preview. You use that graphic organizer. You show students the big picture. This is what you're going to learn. You activate relevant schemata. That means you bring knowledge that's in their head to the forefront. And again, this is an advanced organizer for direct instruction that I would give to you at the beginning of the lesson, which I did. The third, in direct instruction, there is tightly scripted lessons that are well organized. Now, I think lesson plans need to be well organized, but not tightly scripted. In this direct instruction lesson plan, a sequence events, question and activities are described. You keep students actively engaged. Nothing is left to chance. You eliminate any downtime. Now, I am a big fan. It is important that you include your questions in your lesson plans, but it has to be flexible. You cannot follow a script exactly. Input, lecture, telling, transmission. Yes, there is some information that students have to know. You use the elements of effective skills instruction. These are the specific steps. If it is organized, it is easier for students to assimilate what you're telling them because they can see the structure. And it should be presented, this information, in small bits because it's less taxing on working memory. If they can see the structure and see small bits, see how it puts together, it's less stressful. It's easier to encode that information in long-term memory. And again, all good lessons have some teaching and telling as part of it. Guided practice, where students are doing something with the new input that you've given it, and you give some immediate assessment or feedback. Here's a form of guided practice. Looks like she's teaching adjectives and then getting students to come up and circle the adjectives, doing something so she can give feedback. You use the information somehow. And then question or probing. According to direct instruction, use questions to kind of dipstick to see if students have got it, to see if you need to fix it up in any way. Seventh part is independent practice. This is where students practice what they've already learned. It could be homework or an in-class activity. Now, to be successful as a teacher, this is practice of what students have already learned. Therefore, they should have anywhere from 95 to 100% success ratio if it's practice of what they've already learned. You don't use homework or independent practice to measure or grade or to challenge. You use it to practice and apply. The goal of teaching is learning, not measuring. Hello? We need more teachers and fewer measurers. And then with anything, you have to revisit, review, and reapply. Students do not learn anything in one sitting. Limitation, it provides this standardized learning experience, but students vary in their knowledge and ability. Provides a standardized teaching experience, does not allow for teacher creativity or variation. It's highly structured. And again, by defining what you must learn, you eliminate what might be learned. This direct instruction doesn't differentiate between a skill and a concept, and you approach them very differently. And it's limited for high-level concepts and understanding, and there's limited transfer. All right? That is direct instruction. Hope you have learned.